Hey guys, I wanted to talk about a little subject today, and that is how incredibly white the governing body is. Especially now that they have chosen 2 more governing body members yesterday at the annual meeting. We have the new 2 guys that kind of all look like each other anyways, don't they? They look like bookkeepers. They look no fun. Sorry, it's true. And so yesterday it was announced that Jacob Rumpf and Jody Jedele are going to be new members of the governing body. And there's not really, I don't think, at least officially, a picture of them. But I was able to kind of dig a picture up. And I think it's them. So I always want to make sure that I confirm sources and that everything is right. So I'm not going to say for a fact that this is the 2 guys, but I'm pretty sure. And they're 2 white guys again. And isn't that just absolutely offending? I feel like this is so rude. And the first time that this was even on my radar at all, that, that people feel slighted by this, was when I was in the foreign language congregation. Back then, we didn't have a broadcast. We barely had a picture of the governing body anywhere. But I think it was in the Proclaimer's book, maybe. I had just a little slip of paper that had the governing body members in it. And I showed it to one of the sisters in foreign language. And she snatched the thing from me. And she goes, "Wait, they're all white." And I'm like, oh my, yeah, I guess you're right. But again, at the time, they weren't really in the forefront how they are now. But hearing how shocked she was really reiterated to me that this is a big deal, that it hurts people, that the governing body is supposed to represent all of us. And we always heard that the 144,000 was supposed to represent all of us, women, men, everybody, every nation, every culture. And we already feel slighted as women because it's definitely a boys' club. But then to see that it's not even representing different. And if you look at the government here in the USA at least, and really worldwide, I mean, other countries are ahead. Mexico, Germany, they all had women presidents and chancellors. But at least in our House and Senate, there's representation. There's diversity. There's women who lead. So we do see that in government already. And that's my worldly, always has been worldly husband. He always says the J-dubs are really just 50 years behind. And it's true. He's so right. We're 50 years behind because suddenly they do change it to now we can wear pants. And diehard J-dubs back in the day, they would have never thought that was gonna happen, and it did because it just happened late. And so maybe one day there's gonna be more diversity in the governing body, especially because there's so many more women that are Jehovah's Witnesses than men. So maybe women are now doing microphones and they're doing the book counter and all this. That's something that never used to happen. But he's right with that. We're just 50 years behind. And we know that especially in Africa, there's growth. There's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses in Africa, and yet there's no representation from Africa, from Asia, from any of the Latin community is slighted. There's never been a governing body member that is Latino, that is Asian. We have one black guy, but he's not from Africa, he's American. And it's just this religion constantly pretends it's an American religion and for America only. So when they make rules, when they make decisions, they think of America and they don't have this worldwide unity in mind, because it's kind of impossible to make these rules and put this on people of every culture because cultures are so incredibly different. And I kind of noticed that too because I was in a congregation in Europe that had another group in it. It was a Tamil group. And the sisters in the Tamil group, they were able to wear belly button free, like they showed their belly and they had their nose pierced. Now, I was a teenager. I thought this was so cool. I was so jealous. And I didn't understand, like, how come they can go to the meeting having their belly shown, having their nose pierced, and yet I can't do that. That's not a worldwide unity. And it was the same with the beard. In Europe, in a lot of congregations I went to, the elders had beards. It was not a big deal. And then moving to the States, I noticed how weird it is here, or was, with the whole beard thing. It was such a big deal, and I wasn't even used to that. But that shows that it's not really a worldwide unity thing with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And now looking at this governing body, 2 more white guys. I mean, isn't that almost incredibly sad? I feel like it's so sad, and people must feel slighted because that's normal. You just do. You're not represented. And how can these older white guys understand you when you're from a different culture and continent? They don't represent the whole world. It's just really like super, super pathetic, really, that they yet again pick 2 more American white guys. And yeah, like they have a Swiss guy and an Australian and a Canadian from the governing body, but really, what does that mean? It's just like Western white men is really what it is. It's just absolutely sad that yet again, so 4 new white guys in the last few years. And of course, these guys are getting younger because apparently Brother Let isn't really in good shape. He gave us talk at the annual meeting yesterday, sitting down. We haven't really heard much from Brotherhood. He's getting really up in age as well. Tony Morris has vanished, no longer a governing body member. Wherever he is just a mystery. We don't even know what happened to him. And then, Garrett Lush is getting older. So they definitely picked some guys that are a lot younger to make sure that these aren't getting so up in age. But isn't it almost like pathetic when you think about how long ago 1914 was and 1975 when the end was promised to come, and here the governing body members yet again are dying and having to be replaced with much younger guys. Back in 2000, I think it was 14, when they had Mark Sanderson join the governing body, my mom was already completely weirded out because he was so much younger than her. She's like, this is so weird. They're not usually younger than me. Like, why are they taking this young, weird bachelor guy into the governing body? It's just so strange. The whole thing is so strange. To me, it kind of shows as well that racism is alive and well the higher you go. I feel like in our congregations, we always were pretty nicely and mingled. But the higher you go, I mean, isn't this like really, really sad, actually? It seems so racist when our congregations have a high percentages of people from all races, and yet you're picking yet again representation that's white men. It's kind of like when you look at pictures of, like CEOs, it's mostly white dudes. And so I guess the governing body isn't really that different than a structure from a business, because even when you go, I think it's the Asia branch, the overseer at the Asia branch is a white guy. Like, what the heck? And I just feel like they did a really faux pass with this. They didn't even really consider their flock, and this is hurting people. This is really, truly like affecting people negatively, because it does matter when you grow up, or when you see people that represent you and what you look like and what your culture is, you feel understood and heard. It is shocking to see a bunch of white men at the top when we're not like that in the congregations. And also really no shocker there, because once you look back into the old literature, you can see how misogynistic and racist Rutherford was, for example. He wrote such racist stuff in our literature, in our J-dub literature. He wrote incredibly misogynistic stuff. And, Samuel Hurd himself is still misogynistic when he said, like, the brain is smaller. But it's not a big shocker. And really, what I was really surprised to find out, too, is that in the beginning, when there was still segregation, in the early days of the Jehovah's Witnesses, we had segregated congregations. And I was shocked to find out that it was what it was. I mean, I always thought we had like this great unity, and that's what I loved about us, is that we had all these cultures and different people, and yet we were all together. And then I learned of our like racist past and really racist present, because the truth is that the governing body doesn't worry about the rank and file. And the governing body, when they always say the governing body loves you, no, they don't. They're really not worried about you. If they had compassion and kindness, they would make it a diverse governing body. And quite frankly, I think that they should have a woman in there too. I mean, if you're trying to represent all people, you should kind of have a woman in there too. And when elders meet with abuse victim and all that, and like the woman isn't allowed to be present, that's all such baloney to me. It would be so much better if there were women present. But no, there's nothing worse than having a woman enter the boys' club, the mostly white boys' club. And since Samuel Hurd is getting up in age, when he passes away, it's going to be an all-white boys' club again. How gross. How gross. How do people feel in Asia, in Africa? How do they feel when they see this? This is shocking to me, really. The dumb thing really about this is that this is really a thing that could potentially make someone stop who's still an active Jehovah's Witness and think, and maybe have some red flags go up. Because if they would truly be representative, like God's children worldwide, and they would take people in to the governing body from all nations, I think it would be easier to accept that God really did pick these guys. And for them to have taken yet 2 more white guys from the USA will give people pause in Africa, and will give people pause in these other countries. Plus, maybe it would be different yet again if they wouldn't be front and center on every freaking broadcast, but because they are, and people see this, and they see this lack of diversity, it really shows that they are not thinking ahead at all. They're bleeding members. People are waking up all the time. And here you have these countries that are actually showing a little bit of growth, and you are so arrogant and presumptuous to think that they will never question what you, the governing body, does because you said that God appointed you. You think that they won't pause and think, this is a little weird to me. But people do pause and think, because that sister in the car with me, she was pretty shocked that it was all white guys. She did not like that at all. And I get it. It made me really pause and think too. I was like almost a little embarrassed. She was new in the quote unquote truth. And so me being like a old timer, like always in, it was like, oh, shucks, this is weird. Yeah. What do you guys think? Would love to hear what you have to think about this development. And like one of the new governing body members, he just got to Bethel in 2020. So he's bypassing all these other company men, all these other guys who've like laid their life down in Bethel service. And here he's a newcomer and shot right up. And then one of the new members is also heavily into real estate. It's kind of weird, but then again, it's basically a real estate company making millions of people selling kingdom halls and having all these different scams. I made a video about it recently. I'll link below, but it's just weird. So if I was still in, this would make me pause. It would. I would think they're young, they're white, they kind of all look alike. It's like they like to have these like carbon copies of each other. I did notice that it's such a cult because everybody likes to kind of look alike, or they have like gestures and then they all kind of do like the same gestures. But I noticed when I was in that ever since we had the broadcast that people like to say or pronounce things similarly. So one of the things was the way that they said mature, but they would be like maturity. I'm like, this is so weird. And there's like this way they say Jehovah, like I can't even say it, but then suddenly everybody starts saying it like that, and it's not a coincidence. They all like to sound alike and look alike. And even the governing body members are picking people that look like them. It's so weird. It's so weird. All right. Well, that was my little update I had to say something about because it's wild. It really is wild. Would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Bye.